Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Dear friends in Dhamma, dear venerable brothers. So basically, last time we started a new sutta which is called Udana Sutta, inspired utterance. So as we already discussed, basically this sutta contained in the Samyutta Nikaya, in the Kanda Samyutta. And so there the idea is while Buddha was living in Sravati, so he made a utterance, kind of inspired utterance. It might not be and it might not be for me. It will not be and it will not be for me. So this is the utterance that he made. And he further mentioned, if one is able to resolve like this, he would be able to cut off the lower fetters. Oram bhagyani sanyojanani chindai. So one can cut off all the lower fetters if he is able to sort of maintain this kind of a, we can say, resolution. And then one monk actually asked how one can do it. And interestingly, as we discussed last time, so this particular statement with a slight difference also referred at other sects. So basically, if you refer say annihilationists, so Uchchedavadis, so they actually have some sort of a statement somewhat similar to this, but it has a significant difference. I might not be and it might not be mine. I shall not be and it will not be mine. So this kind of a statement is used by the annihilationist because they consider at the end of this life everything finished. So there is a person right now, there is a soul right now, and that particular soul, that particular person, that individual completely perishes, completely disappear at the end of this life. So that is their annihilationist view. And so those are actually, someone actually last Sunday asked to give a little briefing about annihilationism. So I found some information available in that what we call Brahmajala Sutta. In Brahmajala Sutta there are many different kinds of say wrong views are collected, and Buddha have put them all together into 62 wrong views. Among those 52 wrong views, around 18 are coming under the speculations about the past, Pubbanta Kappika. And there are 44 related to the future, speculations related to the future. So you can see that Buddha has sort of put them all together. So this is not that everybody has all this, but interestingly many meditators can have all this, some of these. So among these 62 wrong views, it is said around 49 are coming as a result of the concentration. If one has fair amount of concentration, it is possible to have, if one is not properly maintain one's understanding, so it is possible to have wrong views, particularly when one has concentration. So basically, therefore, with respect to the past, there are speculations, 18 speculations, and with respect to the future, there are 44 speculations. And among the 44 future related speculations, there are 7 actually related to Uchchedavada, what we call annihilationism. So this annihilationism particularly talks about the ending of an existing individual, ending of an existing soul. So previously I had a soul, now also I have a soul, but anyway at the end of this life I am going to finish it. There won't be any more souls. There was an individual, currently also there is an individual, and in the future, at the end of the death, so this individual going to be completely disappeared. So this is the sort of annihilationism that they are talking. And there are also slight differences are there. Therefore, Buddha summarizes them into 7 types of annihilationism. So in the first one, actually, the very first annihilationism is where they don't believe in sort of a mind which is independent of the body. Rather, they consider this mind is a manifestation of the body itself, materiality itself. So at the end of the passing away of the body, so that mind also perishes, disappears. So therefore, it is a complete materialism. So even nowadays we have such kind of people who are not giving any value to mentality, consciousness, awareness. So they simply say all these consciousness, awareness are product of the materialism, product of the body. So it is coming because of the body function or the brain function. So the materialists are therefore with the view that at the end of this life everything finish. So that is one very first annihilationism talked in this Brahmajala Sutta, and the other 6 standpoints all comprise of belief in some sort of a soul that is transhuman, so that is transmigrating, and some sort of a soul is there. But interestingly, they are believing that it will be ended in this life. So it is coming with respect to the sense world, that soul belongs to the sense world. It can belong to a form world. It can belong to a immaterial world, a percipient world, impercipient world. So like that, they have various views about that particular soul. So therefore, anyway, that particular soul going to end. So that is where the annihilationists talking in a particular way. And so therefore, I just don't want to go to all the details, since we just touch annihilationism very short, in a very brief manner in this Udana Sutta. That's why I just want to add that part. So in this annihilationism, so they have this interesting kind of a statement. So that is what we need to little explore about. I might not be and it might not be mine. I shall not be and it will not be mine. So basically, as we just discussed in this annihilationism, they are using this sort of an interesting statement just to highlight the end of this soul, end of this individuality. But Buddha has come up with a slight change. He's saying, it might not be and it might not be for me. It will not be and it will not be for me. So there's a little difference there. So there is no talk about a soul, but there is a reference to aggregates. So there are 5 aggregates. They were continuing. It is not as a soul, but due to certain causes and conditions, each and every moment the various different kinds of aggregates are coming up. They are helping each other. They are sort of dependent on each other. And there are various reasons, causes, conditioning them. So as a result of that, there were past aggregates. And currently also there are aggregates manifesting. And if I ignorantly behave, so then there will be future aggregates as well. So there's some sort of a continuity. But if we are able to realize the Dhamma and completely cut off craving, or as we discussed in the Detanupassana Sutta, there are many methods available. So if we are able to completely realize Dhamma, if we are able to cut off ignorance, then there is a way to avoid the kind of accumulation of these aggregates, to avoid the grasping of these aggregates. So if we are able to fulfill that, completely non-grasping aggregates, then there is an end of all these continuity. So very much like kind of coming to an end. That is also a little similar to annihilationism, but there is no talk about a self. So therefore Buddha discuss here about the complete end. So as you know, there are 2 categories of Nibbana: Saupadisesa Nibbana and Anupadisesa Nibbana. In the Saupadisesa Nibbana, where when one attains the arahantship, So basically still the aggregates are continuing because of the momentum, because of the other conditions. They are still continuing, but there are no defilements and there is no further accumulation of aggregates. There is no grasping of aggregates. So ultimately that will completely end, completely ceases at the end of the death. Then we say, so he has attained the anupadisesa nibbana without any remainder of the aggregates. So all those aggregates are now completely disappeared, completely vanished, and there is no more birth. Everything has finished. So that is the theme actually here Buddha highlights. So at the end of the death, so that aggregates which were coming, conditioned and dependent, so all that going to be completely finished. It will not be, and it will not be for me. Now this is an interesting kind of a statement because it will give us a kind of a direction. But on the other hand, as now we can get into the next part of the sutta, so now Buddha further mentioned that if for a uninstructed person, this kind of a statement can give him some sort of a fear, because he is always thinking about a person, individual, and a soul. So it can be a fearful for him to think that everything going to finish. But here, for an instructed disciple, so he very well know, okay, there is no such so-called intrinsic soul. So therefore, this is something different that we are talking. So we look into the next part of the sutta now. So after the explanation that last time, the end of the explanation, so rupassa vibhava, vedanaya vibhava, sanya vibhava, sankharanang vibhava, viññānassa vibhava, evaṁ kho bhikkhu, no chassang no chamesiya, na bhavissa, na me bhavissatiti. So this is where he come to a conclusion that he understand, okay, these form aggregate can stop grasping. The feelings aggregate can stop grasping. First, perceptions aggregate, we can stop grasping. Formations aggregate, we can stop grasping. Then the consciousness aggregate, we can stop grasping. And they are continuously, each and every moment, they are disappearing, arising and passing away. They are in a complete impermanent, transient nature. So if you are able to avoid grasping of them altogether, so at one day, so this grasping nature may be completely stopped. So the aggregates may completely disappear, not having enough grasping support, the fuel coming from the grasping, and therefore this is going to be completely end. So with the extermination of form, extermination of feeling, extermination of perception, extermination of volitional formations, and extermination of consciousness, that bhikkhu resolving thus, it might not be and it might not be for me. It will not be and it will not be for me. Can cut off the lower fetters. So this is how we stopped last time. Now there's another bhikkhu in this crowd. So he's asking a very interesting question. Katampana bhante janato katam passato anantara asavanam khayo hoti. Now here Buddha emphasize on the cutting off of lower fetters. There are 5 lower fetters. Oram bhagyani sanyojanani, there are 5. That means sakkaya ditti, vicikicca, silabbata paramasa, kamaraga, patiga. Sakkaya ditti, the personality view. Vicikicca, the doubt. Silabbata paramasa, adhering to rules and rituals and expecting them to provide complete purification. And then kamaraga, the sensual desire. Patiga, the ill will. So those are the 5 lower fetters typically talked in the Dhamma. So only Buddha talk here about the 5 lower fetters. So he said, okay, if one have this kind of a resolution, one can cut off these 5 lower fetters. Then interestingly, one monk is asking, Katam panabhante janato katam passato anantara asavanam kayo hoti. But how should one know, how should one see for the immediate destruction of the taints to occur? So that indicates he wants more. He don't want just to cut off lower fetters. He wants completely cutting off all the defilements, all the say fetters without just hanging on at the non-returner level. He is talking about the arahantship. So how one can have a fairly successful, fairly speedy enlightenment without just hanging on at the cutting off of lower fetters. He want to cut off the upper fetters as well. Uddhambhagya Sangyojana as well he want to remove. So what is the method? So that's pretty interesting, that his question. Now Buddha further explained so how one can continue the practice. Ida bukku asutava putujjano atasitaye thane tasang apajjati taso heso bhikkhu asutoto putujjanassa nochassan nochamesiya na bhavissa name bhavissati. So Buddha mentioned here bhikkhu, the uninstructed worldlings becomes frightened over an unfrightened matter. For this is frightening to the uninstructed worldling. It might not be and it might not be for me. It will not be and it will not be for me. But the instructed noble disciple does not become frightened over an unfrightening matter. For this is not frightening to the noble disciple. It might not be and it might not be for me. It will not be and it will not be for me. So basically that previous statement that we just discussed. So it's somewhat frightening for a uninstructed person because he is always with the personality view. He is always with the kind of what we call sakkaya ditthi or atta ditthi, thinking that there is a person here, there is an individual here, there is an ongoing soul here. So if someone say, okay, it's going to end if you practice like this, it will be a little frightening for him. He might ask, okay, what's going to happen to me? Because he is with the view that there is a person here, there is an individual here, there is I here. So what's going to happen to me at the end of this life if this is going to be practiced? So it will be frightening to him. But the instructed noble person, so he know, okay, there is no such so-called I, existing I, rather it is built up based on the ignorance. So when there is significant amount of ignorance available at that moment, as a result of that ignorance, so we are doing some sort of fabrication, construction, and then we are preparing a self. A sense of self, sense of I generated because of those constructions, those fabrications. Fabrications happens because of the ignorance. So that is something known to the noble disciple. So you know that even when one becomes a Sotapanna, one interesting understanding in him is about this Patissamuppada, about this conditionality, about how things are arising dependent on the causes and conditions. So this is a very important understanding he has to have. So even when one attains the Sotapanna, so that means any noble disciple has this understanding. He know that it is not intrinsic person, intrinsic individual or I we are referring here, existing I we are referring here, rather we create an I, we makes I, we fabricates I. So it's a fabricated I, it's a mind-made I, mind-made person. So that is what the noble person very well know. So further through his practice, he is now trying to recognize that I-making, mind-making, that conceit, all that he is now trying to recognize. Now further Buddha mentioned, Rupa upayanga bhikkhave viññānaṁ tiṭṭhamaṇaṁ tiṭṭheya. Rūpārammanaṁ rūpapatittham nandupasecanaṁ buddhiṁ virolhiṁ vepullaṁ āpajje. Now Buddha explains how consciousness established. Now as we know, there are 5 aggregates according to the Buddha's teaching, and now this consciousness aggregate is quite responsible for the continuity, but it alone can't continue by itself, rather it always grasps something, establish on something. So in order to establish, either it uses the form aggregate, either it uses the feeling aggregate, either it uses the perceptions aggregate, either it uses the formations aggregate. So that is what now Buddha explains. Rupa upayanga bhikkhave viññānaṁ tiṭṭhamaṇaṁ tiṭṭheya. Monks, consciousness bhikkhu while standing might stand engaged with form. Now, say for example, when we are looking at a beautiful figure, beautiful picture, image, so immediately we may start appreciating it, evaluating it, getting delighted with it, and interested about it. Now you want to recognize more details. Probably you go closer to it, you start looking at closely. Now your consciousness is fully involved with it. Now all the mind, the consciousness getting filled up with all the subtle details about that image, whatever the artwork or image or figure or whatever. So now the consciousness associate that figure, consciousness associate that form. It is no more independent. It is completely engaged with the form now. Now, if we are interested about a particular song, say we start appreciating it, we start enjoying it, we become delighted about that song, we even murmur it, we start recognizing the tune, or maybe we start recognizing the singer and all the content of the song, and we become emotional, romantic about the song, whatever. Now that means our consciousness is no more independent. It is completely engaged. It's completely become involved. And similarly the smells, taste, tangibles, and even when a thought comes to the mind. So when we give some significance, some importance to the thought, so basically our mind starts adding to it. We have certain likes and dislikes to this particular recent thought. Now we slowly get interested about that thought, so we start thinking further, maybe even overthinking, and ultimately even can get into conceptualizing, conceptual proliferation. All that happens. So that means our consciousness has established. Either it can establish on the material form, can establish on even feelings. Say there are feelings, certain feelings are there. Say for example, there is a pleasant feeling, so you become delighted about it, you are happy about that pleasant feeling. So slowly get involved with it, and you start dealing with it, faring with it, maybe attached to it. So that means feelings are another area where the consciousness can establish. So likewise, Buddha talks here about the sanya. Sanya upayangva bhikkhave viññānaṁ tiṭṭhamaṇaṁ tiṭṭheya. Sanya rammanam, sanya patiṭṭhaṁ, nandupasechanam buddhing virulhing vepullang apajjaya. So basically that means now once it is established in a little way, slowly it starts growing and finding some more details, more signs, and further interested, further delighted, and further growing, and ultimately well established. It is not an immediate establishment, but it's gradually it established. But interesting thing is it happens very quickly. We can't even know unless we are fairly mindful and clearly comprehending the whole picture. It is very difficult to recognize this process because things happening very fast. So the consciousness either, therefore Buddha explained here, either it can establish on the form aggregate, feelings aggregate, perceptions aggregate, formations aggregate. Now here we are talking about the conditioned consciousness. So it is well dependent, either it is dependent on the form, dependent on the feelings, dependent on the formations or perceptions. So that becomes the ground, that becomes the home for the consciousness. That is another sutta we already discussed called Haliddakani Sutta, where Buddha explained these four aggregates are very much like homes, kind of houses, residences for the consciousness. Either consciousness take the house of form, house of feelings, house of say perceptions, or house of formations. Now whenever we are fascinated about a picture, that means we are well established, the consciousness has well established. When we are sort of infatuated about some sort of interested about some sort of feeling, so that means consciousness has established. Suppose that we are thinking on a particular way, this way, that way, about the future, about the past, and we are not mindful, completely engulfed in that thinking, okay, the consciousness has established. Say if your mind is filled with so much of different thoughts, so much of different signs with respect to your mother, with respect to your father, about your children, your husband, your wife, your fiancé, your fiancée, all that are quite enough for the consciousness to establish. And further Buddha elaborate, Yo bhikkhu evaṃ adeyya aham anyatra rūpā anyatra vedanāya anyatra saññāya anyatra saṅkhārehi viññānassa āgatiṃ vā gatiṃ vā chutiṃ vā uppattiṃ vā buddhiṃ vā virulhiṃ vā vepullaṃ vā paññāpessāmīti netaṃ thānaṃ vijjati. So Buddha give another statement here. He says, if someone is telling, okay, I am going to talk about particular consciousness which is going to establish, going to grow, going to adhere, going to stand on somewhere which is beyond the form, feelings, perceptions and formations. There is no such possibility. So that means, so these are the only possibilities available. If consciousness has to establish, it either has to associate the form, either has to associate the feelings, either has to associate perceptions, either has to associate formations. That's it. So that means we have to work on these four areas. We have to recognize how consciousness is going to establish on all those four areas. Other than that, there is nothing to worry. So if it is going to be a conditioned consciousness, established consciousness, standing consciousness, so it will have to associate one of these four, and beyond that, out of that four, there is nothing. Now, he is talking about how to make the consciousness unestablished. So that is the vipassana. So how one can make consciousness unestablished? Rupa dhatuya che bhikkhave bhikkhuno rago pahino hoti. Ragassa pahana vachitata rammanam patitta viññānassa no hoti. Now he explains, suppose that you are practicing kayanupassana. Say you are practicing elements meditation. Now slowly you have the capacity to recognize elements. Not as an immediate skill, but slowly. Suppose that you are able to gain that skill. You recognize the body and you are able to develop fair amount of mindfulness. You know how to maintain mindfulness. Okay, body is walking, you are like an outsider, you are able to watch it. Body is sitting, you are like an outsider, you can recognize the sitting body. Body is lying down, you can recognize the lying down body. So that means the mindfulness is little maintaining a kind of a distance. It is not that completely absorbed to the body. It is not completely distracted from the body. Rather, it has maintained the proper distance. And it is able to recognize the sleeping body, or say lying down body, standing body, sitting body, walking body. So that mindfulness has that kind of a quality. It is not completely absorbed to the object, neither it is completely distracted. So you are recognizing this skill. Okay, now you have the capacity to observe the body. It is variations, ups and downs, various parts, body parts. So you are building up further understanding. Now suppose you are able to develop fair amount of mindfulness, fair amount of concentration, and you are able to maintain proper balance of effort. And now you are recognizing subtle element characteristics in the body. So that means the hardness, softness, roughness, smoothness, heaviness, lightness. So that is the earth characteristics, earth qualities. Then you are trying to recognize the cohesion, maybe fluidity, the water characteristics. Then the heat, cold, the whatever this heat characteristics. And the movements, vibrations, so those are the air characteristics. Now these are the fairly fundamental characteristics of the materiality. So here we don't need any kind of concepts to know them. We don't need the language to know them. So you are coming to a very basic fundamental understanding of the materiality through your mindfulness, concentration and the balance effort. Now, as we are continuing to know that, slowly, you may understand how changing they are, how transient they are, and slowly you are developing that capacity, that insight. So what happened as a result of that is that you are developing wisdom. So instead of attaching it as a compact body, now you know, okay, these are different body parts available, none of them are beautiful, and still they are arising and passing away, completely transient. So to which parts I am going to call belong to me, to which part representing myself, which part is I. So the insights are responsible to cut off that delusion. So slowly you are developing wisdom. So that wisdom helps to have a kind of a detached framework, kind of a detached attitude in the mind, kind of a dispassion is arising in the mind. Now that's why Buddha here highlights Rupa dhatuyache bhikkhave bhikkhuno rago pahino hoti. Rago pahino hoti. So the lust become faded away, slowly abandoned. Instead of lust, instead of raga, now you have dispassion, viraga. So you are not much interested about attaching to the body. So basically the process, the vipassana process develops some sort of a detachment from the body, disenchantment from the body. So that is what ultimately responsible to completely liberate the mind, the consciousness from the body. So it may be a kind of a short time purpose, or what we can, a very short period, but when it happens again and again, the yogi might feel it. Yogi might recognize some sort of a jerk. He was fully aware of the body and he was fairly observing it, investigating it. So all that understanding is now growing, its true nature being understood. Now as a result of that, there is a fair amount of detachment, dispassion, and at one point the mind has completely let go of the body. But the problem is we can get attached to the feelings. So therefore that's why we have to practice the Vedananupassana to some extent, or for some others say to a fair extent, to have that dispassion towards the feelings as well. Even though mind fairly given up the body, still it can develop fair amount of feelings. It might develop some kind of a pleasant feeling. So one can attach to that pleasant feeling. Or it can develop some sort of a pain and you can attach to that pain, worried that pain. So likewise, so the feelings are another area where the consciousness get established. So now we need to work out on the feelings as well. Now that's why in the Vedananupassana, one is developing such kind of a practice. Right? He is now trying to recognize the true nature of the feelings. How feelings are arising, how they are changing, how they are passing away, and how subtle they are, how transient they are. They are not a kind of a feeling which exists for a long time. Rather, it's a group of feelings working together and manifest as a single feeling. But when we are able to recognize feelings carefully, then one would be able to recognize that subtle characteristics. So likewise, this understanding is slowly growing with respect to the feelings. Now that feelings aggregate also, one would be able to abandon. Similarly, Buddha talks about sanya, so various perceptions. Say, as feelings may fade away, probably you may get up with some sort of perception. So there may be various images appearing in your mind. If you are a faith character, maybe a pagoda might appear. Maybe a Buddha image can appear. If you are a different character, maybe say a dead body might appear. So like that, various things are possible. I am not saying that everyone would see that, but there is a possibility that various perceptions, various images and even sounds can manifest, and if we give some emphasis, any importance to them, then that is enough for the consciousness to get established. So this is a tricky area actually we are talking. So how the mind get completely unestablished? So actually at the beginning we won't get the very perfect purified state. Rather we take a kind of a comparatively somewhat purified state. There may be still signs of or shades of feelings, shades of perceptions, and there may be closed by thoughts. So therefore we can't say it is completely liberated, completely purified. There are still some little association with the others, even though the mind becomes freed from the say form aggregate. There may be shades of feelings, there may be shades of perceptions, there may be shades of thoughts. So that's why we need to further and further practice. Suppose that you are able to recognize those shades of perceptions, images. So if you are able to recognize them carefully and ignore them, let them go without giving any emphasis, importance, and not being delighted with it, simply ignore them, let them go, then mind becomes further purified. There is no perception, there is no sign or mark to establish. So that is also now abandoned. Now suppose there are thoughts. You might get a doubt. What am I going to do next? So that itself promotes thinking. So that itself promotes thinking. Are we able to avoid that thought? Okay, this is a mere thought, a mere doubt. I should not encourage it. I need to let it go. Suppose that you are calming down the formations, releasing the thoughts. You are not keeping them. You are not promoting thinking. You are not promoting any kind of speculation. You are not promoting any kind of a doubt. Slowly you are calming down everything. You are relaxing. Now there are no form-related perceptions, form-related thoughts. No particular feeling for you to get interested. So slowly, mind become fairly unconditioned, fairly freed, fairly unassociated. Now Buddha say, even vijnana dhatuyache bhikkhave bhikkhuno rago pahino hoti. So basically, previously actually Buddha mentioned about that, okay, vijnana going to establish on form, perceptions, feelings, formations. But here in this section, he is talking about the vijnana dhatu as well. Don't know whether this is just coming from the oral sort of when the Dhamma being protected through the oral tradition, whether they have added this or Buddha has really mentioned it. I have a little doubt about it. But anyway, the point is that the consciousness is not established at anywhere. So he is taking care of not established at anywhere. One thing is that probably one can create a self with respect to the experience. Now say for example, when we are talking about the form aggregate, okay, who is knowing the form aggregate? Who is investigating the form aggregate? So you can create a self there. So when you are recognizing the feelings aggregate, who is feeling? Is there a person who is feeling? And there are perceptions. Who is the one knowing the perceptions? Who is the one recognizing the perceptions? And when thinking is there, thoughts are there, who is the thinker? Is there a thinker? So probably there's a possibility that one may create thinking about an experiencer, someone who is feeling, someone who is perceiving, someone who is thinking. So one can create a self even out of that. So that also has to be cut off. There may be thoughts but no thinker. There are feelings but there is no person who is experiencing. So there is a form but there is no person who belongs it. Or there are perceptions but there is no person who is recognizing it. There is no soul. So likewise, there is an experience going on but there is no experiencer. So that is another very subtle area that one has to cut off. Then only we can say the mind is completely liberated, no attachment, no association, no clinging, no grasping at all. Now, Tang appatitidang viññānaṁ avirolhaṁ anabi sankacca vimuttaṁ. Now Buddha further explains of this when this consciousness becomes completely unestablished, not coming to growth, non-generative, it is liberated. Vimuttattha titam. So once it is liberated, it becomes standstill. That's an interesting point. Now through the samatha meditation, we are trying to keep the mind stand still by holding to a one object. Say you are practicing anapanasati. So the breath becomes your standpoint. Okay, breath is your object. Again and again you are adherent to it. And now breath become, say, manifested as a light, a nimitta, and you absorb to that. Mind remains calm, quiet, established, stand still, no wavering. But there is an object, there is a grasping. But here, mind has become stand still, consciousness has become stand still because it has nothing. It has no object at all. Vimuttattha titam, titatta santusitam. And once it is established, in the sense once it is becomes still, it is having some sort of say satisfaction, what we call become content, because there is no craving. So craving is the one responsible to develop some sort of unsatisfactoriness, some sort of a discontent in the mind. So there is a little thirst every time. There is something lacking every time. But when there is no thirst, there is no lust, there is no object, so mind become happy, naturally contented. Santusitattana paritassati. By being content, it is not agitated. There is no agitation in the mind. So mind is completely tranquil, no agitation at all. Aparitassang pacchattang eva parinibbayati. Being unagitated, he personally attains Nibbana. Now Buddha summarizes the whole Vipassana here. So how one can quenched in this very life. He understands. Destroyed his birth, the whole life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more for this state of being. It is bhikkhu for one who knows thus, for one who sees thus, that the immediate destruction of the taints occur. So that means, so this practice has to be continued as much as possible. Then there is no sort of stagnating while at the non-returner level. One can become even an arahant. So that is very much the summary in say according to Buddha's answer here. So this practice is not limited to take you only to the cutting off of the lower defilements, lower fetters, but it is capable of continuing till the complete enlightenment. Interesting thing is that the consciousness has to make unestablished. So as we discussed in the Dvaitanupassana Sutta, so established consciousness, the conditioned consciousness, is one area or one reason for the suffering to arise. So that conditioned consciousness is one reason for suffering to arise. So if one has that understanding, then his practice is aimed towards keeping the consciousness unestablished. So if the mind get grasped, so that means consciousness get established. So if the mind is not grasping anything in the world, not associating anything in the world, so that means fairly consciousness is unestablished. So this unestablished consciousness is something that we have to promote, keeping the mind free from the five aggregates. Now we can see, if we can look back the statement, so if we are trying to maintain this kind of an unestablished consciousness, that means there is no grasping. There is no grasping the form aggregate. So the form aggregate will fade away. There is no grasping to the feelings aggregate. The feelings aggregate may fade away. It is not getting accumulated. We are not promoting it. We are not desiring it. And the formations aggregate, that also not grasped. So it also fade away. Then the perceptions aggregate, that also not grasped, fade away. So likewise, even the consciousness aggregate not grasped, it is fading away. So that means there is a possibility of ending of the aggregates. So aggregates are continuing because we are promoting them, we are establishing on them, we are grasping them, we are adding fuel, we are supplying fuel. But we stop supplying fuel by non-grasping, so that means there's a possibility of complete cessation. So that is why the statements here, it might not be and it might not be for me. It will not be and it will not be for me. So the aggregates, if we are continuing with this kind of a practice, there's a possibility not grasping them, not fueling them, they will finish. And that's why here in the previous section, with the extermination of form, extermination of feeling, extermination of perception, volitional formations and consciousness, that bhikkhu resolving thus, it might not be and it might not be for me, it will not be and it will not be for me, can cut off the lower fetters. So we are revisiting that statement. So basically the idea is, so if we are able to have this sort of practice, then slowly mind may start getting freed from the 5 aggregates. Mind is not associating it, grasping it, holding it. Rather, consciousness become sort of freed. Okay, I think with that we can conclude this sutta. Now if you have any questions, we can discuss them. Yeah, you have a question?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah. So we have a question from our side. One moment. Yeah. Yeah.
Sadhu, 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 Bhante.
Yeah.
Which sutta is this Udana sutta? Where is it from?
It's from the Samyutta Nikaya.
Yes. Samyutta Nikaya.
Samyutta Nikaya.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you, Bhante.
It is not coming in the, there is another complete section on Udana in the Khuddaka Nikaya.
Okay.
So it is not there.
Okay.
It is in the
Samyutta.
Samyutta Nikaya.
Yes, thank you, Bhante.
Yeah.
And
Kanda Samyutta aggregates.
okay.
Kanda Samyutta. Yeah.
It's a very inspiring sutta. And I was just curious. I was having a conversation earlier this week, and there was the term choiceless awareness came up.
Mm-hmm.
How would that relate? Is that a Buddha something the Buddha said, or is that, because I hear that in meditation practice, and how would that relate to this?
Yeah, I feel we are very much talking there kind of an intermediate level, like what Buddha talked to the Bahya. So there are sights, but mind is not interested. There are sounds, smells, taste, tangibles, mind is not interested.
Yeah.
There are thoughts, but mind is not getting involved. So very much like you are not giving any prominence to any of these. But I feel now when Buddha talks about this one, so what we discussed today, so the mind has gone beyond that. So basically the complete cessation of the 5, what we call the 6 ayatanas, what we call salayatana nirodha. Salayatana nirodha is what the nibbana is called. So the perceptions are completely cut off, formations are completely cut off, and feelings are completely cut off. The complete cutting off, isn't it?
Yes.
It is not. We can't say that they are there, but I am not interested of them. So that is an intermediate state. But
okay, so choiceless awareness would be
an
sort
intermediate state.
Just, we may have some inclination towards a sight, but we try to step back.
Step back and just maintain a distance.
Yes.
So
and
by the way, we
and
have to go through it. So we
Yes.
can't say that one may achieve the complete liberation without going through this kind of a process.
Yeah.
So at an intermediate level, that one may come across this kind of a state where what we call the signs are there, perceptions are there, feelings are there, but the mind is now its own business.
It's the mind has stepped back completely.
Feeling dispassionate,
Yeah.
not interested.
Yes.
It's not interested of getting involved. It liked its seclusion, something like that.
Yeah.
So this is something has to grow slowly. So ultimately they may go far away. Ultimately mind become completely independent, and there is no even a residue of any of these. Something like that.
So choiceless awareness is more something we try to tell ourselves. Don't
get attached.
Don't give importance to any particular this thing that I like or thing I don't like. Don't cling to that choice.
Exactly. You have no choice.
Yes.
Choice in the sense you have no preferences. Now typically when there are 6 objects available, I might have a preference. Okay, I am giving some importance to a form. I might give some importance to the sound. So likewise, I may choose one of them. But here I am not choosing any of them.
Yes.
It has its kind of a unbiased, unattached nature, and it's slowly trying to become free from them, independent of them.
Okay. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah. Any questions from you? So anyway, I mean, this is a fairly deep subject we discussed today. So basically talking about final ending of the whole thing. So those are the questions came from here. Now we can go to you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Bhante. I'd like to invite then Geshan for the next question.
Gururan Saranai Bhante, I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
I also sent you a small image in that there is the form aggregates, the feeling and the perception and the formation, and in the middle of that the consciousness aggregates resides. So if you think of in a Cartesian diagram, like a set diagram or set theory, per se, you see some of this formation. It is the way that I have understood has certain type of a representation of that image, which I shared with you. If you want, you can take a look at it as well. And in that, the way I understand the formation aggregate cannot just exist without the consciousness aggregate. The same way that I think the feeling aggregates cannot exist without the consciousness. So as the formation and perception, the way you describe, and I thought this probably will represent the way that I have interpreted as well. And because for me, I think if I talk about me or for any individual, the same way as we are humans, we can interrelate these because of our consciousness. And if not for the our existence, like there may be the form, but no consciousness, and we don't feel it, we don't get it, we don't understand, we don't sort of comprehend. And is that a fair way to sort of analyze it as well? So are these interdependent on the consciousness aggregate itself is interdependent on the form, the feelings, or the perception, or the formation, in simple words, or simple question?
So do you mean that the form aggregate to manifest consciousness becomes a kind of a prerequisite?
What I felt through this discussion as well, maybe I was misunderstood then, that those two have to sort of coexist at the same time.
So basically that's why the 5 aggregates have their mutual dependencies, and here particularly we are talking of how the consciousness can establish. So it is always, when we are talking about the mundane, the conditioned world, So somewhere the consciousness has established. Say when you are
Yes.
assume that you are watching a movie, so the consciousness has established, say on the form aggregate as a sight, and it is generating some sort of feelings, emotions, and then say the consciousness aggregate get established on those emotions or on those perceptions. So likewise, it is switching from one to the other. So it is somehow managing it, grasping any of this, and it's continuing. So either it is grasping form and it is exiting, and then it is switching to maybe feelings, existing, maybe again form, again established, again perceptions, again formations, again form. So likewise, continuously it is having its establishment in any of these. So I can't say that for form aggregate to exist, consciousness is a must. Now, say for example, so when consciousness is not manifested, so that means the other four aggregates may continue, but the consciousness is not interested about it. Consciousness doesn't have any kind of attachment to them, any craving to them. So the consciousness has basically liberated, but the other four aggregates, they are, but we are talking here about the Arahant who has completely cut off the defilements. So he has the form aggregate anyway. He may have the feelings, he may have the perceptions, he may have the thoughts, but the point is that the consciousness is not getting established in them. So when he is particularly in the Arahant, what that the Arahantapala Samadhi, so we can't say that he don't have feelings when he is say in the typical way. Suppose he is going on Pindapata, and all of a sudden his leg may hit a stone. He may get a painful feeling. He may recognize the painful feeling. So it's a mere painful feeling. He doesn't have any ignorance to consider that painful feeling as myself. So it's a mere painful feeling. So the consciousness may not get attached to it and then think about it and proliferate it, and all that story may not prepare for him, available for him. But as you said, at that point, the feeling should be felt even to the Arahant. But there is no grasping as such, so that the consciousness get completely established and ultimately even going for a proliferation level. I feel it might not happen. It may come to the conscious field. So that particular feeling has come to the conscious field, but other than that, there is no I-making, mind-making, craving happens to that. So that may be the only part lacking.
Understood. So I think maybe I should have been a bit clear. So for me, the way I sort of phrase it as, if I don't exist, because I exist, my consciousness is there, so I can sort of understand the formations, feelings, perceptions, and formations. The time are no longer here. My consciousness, my forms are here. There's no feelings because I cannot interpret them. I think that is the relation I try to sort of share with this image as well. And I think I understand what you're saying, and I think you brought up a fantastic point as well. When you go on Pindapata and hits on a small rock or whatever, and you feel that, you cut and then you feel it, and but because of the consciousness that you don't make it yourself as I, and then you can sort of separate that the pain or that feeling. So I think that is that disjoint, I guess. My next question is, you mentioned without any experience, I think this is certain. I couldn't sort of get that. Maybe I should listen to the talk again. So I shouldn't ask that question till now. Maybe next week if I couldn't understand. So I think this is the only question I will pose it for now. Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay. Thero Sannai.
Thero Sannai, sorry.
Yeah, Thero Sannai.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Kunudini for the next question.
Thero Sannai Bhante, thank you.
Yeah, Thero Sannai.
I wanted to ask you about today's Dhamma sermon. When we do Vipassana meditation, isn't this what we are always trying to do?
Yes.
When we have a feeling, we just, recognize it and let it go without getting attached to it.
Correct.
Everything.
Correct.
All the,
Yeah.
Isn't that what we
Yes.
say?
Yes. That is what we are doing. Yes.
Yeah. So now, I understood that I related your sermon to the Vipassana meditation, but I have, I can do the Vipassana meditation very well with this kind of thing, but I have not yet come to the stage when I'm not meditating, having a detached attitude. If I see something, I recognize it. Mm-hmm. Am I not supposed to recognize it or what?
Yeah, I feel that we have to recognize it, but how about keeping the mind free from getting delighted of it, getting attached to it, and having some sort of thoughts generated about it, thinking about it? How about that successive parts? Are we able to manage it, minimize it?
Yes, I do that a lot.
That's the thing.
Yes,
yeah,
quite a lot.
Yeah.
I'm getting more and better and better at it. Actually.
Yeah, that's what I think.
This is what you're talking about, Bhante, isn't it?
Yeah, that is what I feel that we are talking here. So previously the point was that when we see something, if we are interested, we get closer to it, we attach to it, we hold it. I want to buy it, I want to possess it. This is mine. I'm thinking about it. So that is where we have too much enthusiasm on it. We are too much interested about it. We are grasping it. But now, seeing is a mere seeing. So when we are typically dealing with all these seeings and say sound, smells, touching, and all that. So basically, they are there, and we may recognize them, but mind may remain calm and not being interested of getting involved with them.
Right. I understand it very well, Bhante.
Yeah.
I have a different question. It is not related to this, but the five Papana karma, the five heinous crimes in Buddhism. Can you tell me the order of them, Bhante? Because I have heard it in so many different ways. I'm a little bit confused because recently I heard completely different from what I thought it was. Could you tell me the order, please?
Actually, I need to check it. I can remember the five, but order I need to check according to the book, and we'll tell you maybe later.
Okay. Thank you, Bhante. Because I know what they are, but I just wanted to know the order. Somebody said that the first one is causing a kisam in the sangha.
I don't know. The thing is now why are we worried about the order?
Because I, as I said to you earlier, Bhante, I was listening. I'm still following this Abhidhamma class on YouTube, and it is telling me this. So I wanted to verify.
So
yes, I'm not worried about it, but I'm just, I just wanted to know how much of it is being, some of them I have found that it is not what I have so far known to be, and I just wanted to know whether this was also so.
Yeah. So
that is all.
now I just found one source. This is in the Milinda Pantha. So there the order is like starting with Matu Gahataka, Pitu Gahataka, Arahanta Gahataka, Sangha Bedaka, Lohituppadaka. So that is the order given there. So starting with the killing of one's mother, then father, then the Arahants, then the schism among the Sangha, and then ultimately the Lohituppada. So I feel that, by the way, this order is not that critical. So what is critical is not to get involved with any of these.
Right. But it was told exactly the other way. That's all. I was just a little bit wondering what it was. Thank you, Bhante. I know it is not that important, but I'm just trying to make sense of what is being taught on YouTube. Thank you very much. I really appreciated today's Dhamma talk.
Okay.
It is very relevant to our Vipassana meditation. Thank you. Theruvan Saranai, Bhante.
Yeah, Theruvan Saranai.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to invite Gita for the next question.
Okay, can you hear me, Bhante?
Yes.
My question is about clarifying about consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Is what we call consciousness present in deep sleep or coma or general anesthetic, where obviously there is no awareness, but they are still alive? So what is the consciousness there?
Yeah, this is an interesting question. Now there's an interesting sutta called Chetana Sutta. There are several Chetana Suttas. In those Chetana Suttas, so let me find out the exact terms, then it should be easy. So there Buddha mentioned Yancha bhikkhave cheteti, Yancha pakappeti, Yancha anuseti, Arammana metang hoti viññānassa titiya. So basically Buddha mentioned, so either you are thinking, that means the conscious level that you are alive and you are awake, and say you have seen something, accordingly you start thinking and you have certain intentions. So volitional intentions are there. So that is one level for the consciousness to establish, as we all can understand. That's a typical, the very easy way of understanding. Okay, there are sight, sound, smell and all that, and you have some interest, so you are thinking about it. So intentionally there are thoughts available. So that is enough for consciousness to establish. So that is one area. And then yancha pakappeti. That means there is no such particular directed interest, directed intentions, but there are some, ongoing thoughts. Sometimes they are not intentional, but the mind is thinking this and that and all that. Nonsense are there, but you are not particularly interested of any of them. But mind has certain thinking going on. And Buddha say, okay, that is even enough for the consciousness to establish. And yancha anuseti. That means there are latent tendencies in the mind. There are latent tendencies in the mind. That is enough for the consciousness to establish. Arammana metang hoti viññānassa titiya. Arammane sati patittha viññānassa hoti. So when there is such kind of an object available, that is enough for the consciousness to get established. Tasmin patittite viññāne virulhe āyatin punabbhavābi nibbatti hoti. So when such is available, any of these possibilities are available, that is enough for having next birth. So my point here is that even though sometimes we are on general, whatever this anesthesia, or we are in a coma, but that mind does not completely free from the latent tendencies, that the functional part is stopped. So you can't see, you can't hear, maybe, but the consciousness has not completely free from the latent tendencies, at least that is in operative. So even someone dies at the coma, so that is enough for one to get a next birth.
So is it the same as bhavanga?
I don't say no. Bhavanga is different. So it is a term introduced by Abhidhamma, but not in the suttas. Bhavanga is typically what they are attributed like, say, while one is in deep sleep. Okay, there is a continuation of the mind as a bhavanga state. But according to the suttas, I feel more than giving into that area, we can say, okay, still the anusayas are inoperative. They are in a latent way available in the mind. So even one is sleeping, even one is in a coma.
So latent things can be aversion or hatred. All of those things can be still present in a latent state.
Exactly. Yes.
And
now even that is why Buddha mentioned categorically. Now say even if you consider an infant, he still doesn't have much of a personality. He still doesn't have any kind of an anger with anyone or any kind of an affection to anyone. He's just an infant. But Buddha say he is not liberated, by the way, because this infant itself still has these latent tendencies. So latent tendencies are playing a big role in that sense. So that is why when it is there may be later time that infant become growing as a child, as a youth, as a man. It can even kill someone, cheat and steal, and all that is possible because latent tendencies are there.
So that is also as some level of consciousness is implied.
Yes.
In that.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's okay. Thanks, Nandi.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to invite the next participant with the username iPhone. Are you able to?
Hello.
Yes. May I know your name, please?
Hello, Bante, this is Radhika. Can you hear me? I don't know if I was supposed to unmute, but it asked me to.
Because you have raised the hand.
Yes. Can I ask you a question, or is it somebody else's turn?
No. I mean, if you have a question, you can ask.
Yes, I want to ask you a question, but it's not from this. It's not from this particular talk. It's a theoretical question. Now we talked today about an anagami as being a once returner. So that is because he will take rebecoming in Sudavasa Brahma realm, and he gets arhatship there. As a non-returner, he takes one birth in there, and then from there itself he gets arhatship. But when they say for a Sakadagami, they say that there will be a birth in a Kamaloka.
One birth only.
Is that correct? One birth in a Kamaloka. So the Kamaloka can be either the human realm or it can be a Deva realm.
Correct.
Because the Brahma realms are not Kama realms, right? So if that is the case, is it correct to say that if he takes birth, the next birth, only one, in the heavens, then from there he will become an arahant, and if by chance he takes birth in the human realm, from there he will become an arahant?
Maybe possible. I couldn't actually. I didn't do a comprehensive analysis of this kind of a thing. So I mean, how if one is a Sakadagami, once returner, so typical understanding is that there's a possibility that he may come back to the sensual realm just only once, and then if he achieves the non-returner level, probably then he may not visit back to the sensual realm. And as you said, if he...
But then that means he has two births, right?
Yeah.
He's not a once returner, then he's two.
The certainty.
One birth in the Kama realm and one in the Brahma realm.
Possible.
When you say once returner, that's my question, because the only reason that I asked that because I had two interpretations by two different monks. One said that he can be born in a Deva realm and then also take birth in the human realm. But the other one said no, it's one or the other. He cannot have any two.
So by the way, don't take my interpretation also and get into arguments.
No argument. I just wanted to know because it's kind of relevant for me. But I just wanted to know if it is one birth, then there will not be another birth in a sensual realm.
No,
only one more birth.
Yeah, actually, when it is called once returner, it is only talking about the sensual realm. That only one possibility to come to the sensual realm, but as you said, there may be a possibility to maybe born at another realm, maybe a Brahma realm.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thero Sarana.
Yeah, Thero Sarana.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to invite Sam for the next question.
Yeah, Bhante, thank you for the Dhamma talk today. Very interesting. I found that you brought up an interesting parallel between stilling the mind through vipassana and stilling the mind through samatha. So I just want to clarify whether my understanding on those two are correct. My understanding is that you said stilling the mind through vipassana involves unestablished consciousness, which probably means there's no object involved, and the pancha nivaranas are basically eradicated. And stilling the mind through samatha, you mentioned, involves jhana, which means suppressing the pancha nivaranas, but there's an object involved, and which means you can get back.
Correct.
That means that the state in the mind is not a permanent state.
Correct.
It's only temporary. Is that correct?
Correct to some extent, because even in the vipassana, now even a vipassana yogi temporarily can keep his mind without an object, but since still the latent tendencies are available, so it may start establishing and he may lose that state. So the liberation is still temporary. So that's why till the defilements are available, even for a vipassana yogi, so the liberated state would be still temporary, even though it is objectless. That's why this objectless state has to be continued for a considerable period of time and practiced again and again, and the defilements have to be abandoned. So then only we can say you are fully liberated, and there is no reversing back, and there is no grasping, proliferation, and that sort of very gross level proliferation may not happen in that mind. Then only we can say, okay, you are safe. One is safe. So that's why even vipassana yogi, if he is not completely cutting off the latent tendencies, we can't say that, according to the teaching, that we can't say that he is fully liberated.
Okay, so you have to eliminate even the latent tendencies,
yes,
in order to define that as full liberation.
Correct. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Okay. I think Thero Sarana. Okay, since there are no questions, shall we wind up, Jennifer?
Yeah, looks like Gershon may have another question.
Okay.
Hi, Gershon, if you have another question.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. And Bhante, I'll try to make it quick. I want to know the difference between the manchana and prapancha. I think I understand very well about the prapancha and how it forms, but I don't think I have a good understanding about the manchana.
It's not manchana, it's manjana. Manjana.
Sorry.
So basically, so the manjana particularly means that conceiving. So there is accepted norm that there is a person here, there is I here, and with respect to I have some sort of a thought. I am here, I am not here. So that sort of I-based thinking, conceiving. But prapancha is a more broader one. So manjana also is very much like included in it. But prapancha is a more general manifestation of the mind. So it is diversifying in many different directions. It can be either based on I, that is based on conceit, that is possible. But it can be again based on the what we call the craving. And further it can be based on, say, that is why typically prapancha is somewhat, to some extent, they have summarized into three possibilities: tanha, ditti, mana. So there are proliferations can happen based on the craving, based on the various views, and based on various conceit. But on top of that, there are other types as well, as we discuss in the Yavakalapi Sutta. Manjana is one subset of it, where I-based thinking is there in the manjana.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I was not too sure about it, so I thought I might as well get that clarification from you.
Okay.
Tunuruan Saranai.
Yeah, Theruwan Saranai.
Alright, Bente, I believe that was the last.
Okay. So then thank you for your active participation. So we have spent fair amount of time discussing the Dhamma as well as learning the Buddha's teachings, and with this we were able to accumulate some merits. So we'll share these merits with all the celestial beings, all past relatives, and whoever in need of merits. And we wish these merits help us also to attain path fruition nibbana. We'll recite the traditional verses. Ettavataja amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavataja amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavataja amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha ca bummatta devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu sasanang. Akasattha ca bummatta devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu desanang. Akasattha ca bummatta devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu mamparang. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo. Imina punya kammena māme bāla samāgamo satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Imina punya kammena māme bāla samāgamo satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Imina punya kammena māme bāla samāgamo satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.